Mala is a immigrant from India and she is a VC venture capital investor. She works at Progressive Ventures venture capital firm. Today our guest is Mala.
I landed in the country with about a $50,000 student loan, and I landed in '98 at the expense of aging myself at Stanford University as a graduate student. And about 9 to 10 months in, I wrote a business plan with a couple of very entrepreneurial friends who are doing phenomenally well in their careers in the Bay Area. And our business plan won the first place with Guy Kawasaki.
How does the audience react to you being a woman leader, leading all these males in the room?
I mean, people call me aggressive and not likable, and, that I'm not technical enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's selling a dog, not a wag its tail.
So I love to see here ambitious, energetic woman leader in front of me, but I would love to take you back to your childhood. So how old are you here?
I was probably 2 years old. Yeah, well, I'm the youngest of 3 sisters. I used to struggle at home for being heard and being seen, just like siblings, kind of like, we're very close. My sisters live within a 3-mile radius of where I am now. It's a very good relationship now. But as a child, it used to be a struggle to be heard and seen. On the other hand, in school, I was the oldest almost always. And so I was always a leader at school. Well, I didn't realize what a hard journey it actually is.
How hard it is? Please tell us.
Well, it's really hard because you're really, you're raising money and you're investing in people, and you're going to have to show returns, right? Now, you're investing in people, it's not real estate, right? So people are very dynamic and they change all the time. Can you tell me one thing that happened in your childhood that's making you sit here on a Sunday afternoon recording podcasts of immigrants?
I wish my mom could see and watch this video, so I become sad when I talk about them, but this is great. So I think that I can feel proud of myself, even though it's very late because my mom couldn't see it, but I realized her dream.
I think you're setting an example for all immigrants. I feel so proud of you when I'm watching you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work.
So now it's really authentic. I'm ready to cry. We can finalize it here.
Beautiful. I told you, compassion is my strength.
Hi everyone, I am Aytakin, the host of the Verso Talk podcast show. Verso Talk features immigrant women investors and founders raising millions of dollars. The goal of this talk is to educate immigrant women on investment and fundraising and inspire them to become financially independent leaders in America. Today, our guest is Mala. Mala is a immigrant from India and she is a VC venture capital investor. She works at Progressive Ventures venture capital firm. Mala, welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Aytakin.
Awesome,
Thank
great.
you, Aytakin. Thank you, Aytakin.
I know my name is hard. You can call me Aytakin or Aytakin.
Okay, thank you, Aytakin.
Yeah, great. That's amazing. So, Mala, very nice to finally meet you in person. And I have heard a lot and I have seen you joining a couple of events. You also manage events. So it has been a long time for me. I wanted to invite you to the podcast to know more about your personal story and journey as a female immigrant, and also get your recommendations and advice helping immigrant women to become successful leaders in America. Let's start with introducing yourself. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Mala Ramakrishnan. I'm the founder and managing partner of Progressive Ventures. We invest in B2B AI SaaS companies. And we look for underrepresented founders, and that's kind of my mission. I do run a nonprofit as well. We have about 10,000 AI innovators, primarily founders, executives, and investors in the Valley. And it's just a platform where we elevate underrepresented voices, founders, as well as executives.
Awesome. And what is the name of the nonprofit?
It's called Founders Creative.
Nice. Yeah. And how long have you been doing it?
We're almost a couple of years old now. We incorporated last year.
Great, great. Let's learn about your journey as an immigrant woman in VC world. How did you decide to join investment world, and where are you now?
Sure. I have a pretty unique and lucky, in a lot of ways, my journey. So I landed in the country with about a $50,000 student loan. And I landed in 98 at the expense of aging myself at Stanford University as a graduate student. And about 9 to 10 months in, I wrote a business plan with a couple of very entrepreneurial friends who are doing phenomenally well in their careers in the Bay Area. And our business plan won the first place with Guy Kawasaki. It used to be called Garage.com at the time. And interestingly, I had a $50,000 student loan, and the award was $50,000. And within a few months, we'd raised our funding. We'd raised $1 million, incorporated, set up our first company. I was a co-founder. I ran engineering. I was a CTO. Subsequently, we exit by sale. So it was just a phenomenal experience for me to encounter a venture capitalist as kind as Guy Kawasaki, if you met him. And it was just empowering. I was very young. I was only 21 or 22 years, so I didn't know about bias or that I was a femigrant. None of those. I was just an engineer who was, solving a problem. And in my perspective, a venture capitalist can make or break your life, right? That's what happened with me. It completely broke the mold for me. I come from an ancestry where none of the women worked. They were not allowed to work. And most of the men in my ancestry are professors of economics and agricultural sciences. So here I was, where I was just starting a company. And it could not have happened without venture money. And so throughout my last 20 years or more, I've always aspired to do it, but you just get caught with life. So I've founded 3 companies, product companies, and exit them.
Amazing.
And, every time I've always had, unlike what you hear, venture capitalists who've always been supportive in my journey and mentored me and, included me. And I just believe in advocacy. So when I hear that less than 2% of women are getting funded, I think it's my responsibility to step up and make a change, because I've been through the journey, the founder's journey, multiple times. And I've also been an investor for more than 7 years. I've been a venture partner, limited partner, angel investor. And so the time was right when I decided to do it.
Great. So how was your experience with being that young and getting access to Guy Kawasaki, right? Tell me about that. That's so cool.
Well, if you'd met me then, I was very different. I was very intimidated by most things. And you know what you're like when you're an immigrant in the country. Everything is like, the opposite of what you've seen back home in India, because it's a British system. Like the handles open differently, the light switches go on differently, you have to cross roads. And if you go into Costco, everything's so massive. And so when I got that mentoring, it was mostly about building a PowerPoint deck that I remember him talking to me about. And I was thinking, this must be the most important role on the planet for him to be able to give us checks, to be able to build things. And it's also the acknowledgement and empowerment you get when someone says you can do it. That's advocacy, right? And I feel like at every stage in my career, there's always been a male advocate saying, come back into the workforce, come here, I'll give you a check. You can start a company too. And I think that's basically what we're trying to do in Founders Creative, where it's open to men and women, and we're trying to help people grow in their careers, whether it's product or engineering, marketing, or if it's climate tech, healthcare, like different verticals that we truly want to invest in. We support those journeys, and that's basically what I had, right? It was phenomenal for me that someone would believe in me and give me a chance to. I don't know if he still remembers me, but it was life altering for me.
Interesting. So let's go back a little bit further for your journey. You came here to study, right? To study MBA at Stanford?
I did my master's in computer science.
Okay.
I'm a computer science engineer from India, from the southern part of India. And I just applied by chance, honestly. My sister encouraged me to apply because she thought I was very smart. And I didn't know about Ivy, and I didn't know what Stanford was. And it was $50 to apply to Stanford University. So the professor...
Application fee, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the professor who wrote my letter of recommendation said, are you sure your family can afford it? $50 is a lot of money. Why are you doing this? And it was crazy. I got into 9 out of the 10 universities. The only university I didn't get in was MIT.
Oh,
And yeah, so I landed in the country. My first job was getting paid $12 an hour to drive a golf cart within Stanford University, installing computers in the dorm rooms. And I was just, ecstatic. I couldn't believe anybody would let me drive a golf cart, and then drive a golf cart, and that I could install computers. This was like a dream job, right? And that's basically, it's finding the shortest path. That was the first, I don't know if you know the shortest path algorithm. That's basically what everything was for those few years for me in my life, where how would you drive the shortest distance to install the most number of computers? And then the company we built, Aeroprise, was about finding the shortest path for service technicians to go and fix computers in the Bay Area, which won the $50,000 the award. And then after we exited Aeroprise, I worked at Route Science, which is a company funded by Sequoia and Benchmark, which was finding the shortest path for data packets to be routed so that video streaming can be what it is today. So it's finding flaws in border gateway protocols. It's what's spoken by the routers, the Cisco routers. And so we built a hardware device that would find the shortest path faster than border gateway protocol. So,
very impressive.
Yeah,
That's
kind of
amazing.
geeking out on you. Yeah.
So your journey was different than many immigrants who come with their spouses. They are not allowed to work. You came with student visa. You, together with your co-founders or team, you launched a company, you exited. So this is a great start. Have you ever experienced something that you realized you go through this process because you are an immigrant woman?
Of course, there are processes that we go through because we are immigrant women. But in all honesty, I just feel very grateful. Like if you put me in a Safeway grocery store as a store clerk, I would just be so grateful that I have a job and I can just work. Because women weren't allowed to work in my mother's generation. My grandmother was not allowed to study beyond 3rd grade. So she studied 3rd grade 5 times. And then my mother was not allowed to go to college. So she went on hunger strike for a week. Oh. And that's how she got a bachelor's degree in biology. And so when I look at myself, I'm like, I went to Stanford University. I have an engineering degree from India. And if I can just work, I'm happy. I'm just very grateful that Silicon Valley gives you an opportunity to do anything you want to be and be, there will be bias. And the way I look at it is that everybody has bias. I'm sure I have bias. It's the nature of the human mind is to have bias. And things were against my favor in a lot of ways. But the way I chose to look at it as a response to my background rather than to say it's unfair here. And that's kind of how I think I've become successful over the years, right? If you have a victim mindset, it's really hard for you to be fully functional and to be very useful in the world. Rather, if you can think of all the skills and gifts that you have, and you can be truly grateful every single day, people will naturally crowd around you and help you. I'm yet to meet a single person, whether a white man or anybody really, who if you ask for help would say, sorry, I can't do it. Because everybody wants to just help you. So that's kind of how it's been. I feel like the world is a kind place. And I have been the only woman engineer for 4 years in a company, like many experiences.
How was your experience being an only woman plus immigrant woman? How was it being among all the male engineers?
If you put me in a room full of men, I'm perfectly comfortable. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I went to all girls schools, that I forget that I'm a girl or a woman, and I'm just functioning from that space of what's the value I can bring to the room and how can I lead. The safest place for me is at the top. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit of a problem, right? I don't work so well in structured organizations where I have to be like 3 levels under the CEO. And so that's a problem, seriously. But I think it's because of the upbringing as well that the safest place is on top. And so if you put me in a room full of men, I'm usually like controlling the audience and getting shit done.
How does the audience react to you being a woman leader, leading all these males in the room?
I mean, I've been, people call me aggressive and not likable, and, that I am not technical enough. And I'm like, yeah, that's selling a dog, not a wag its tail. I mean, I just let it bounce off me. And it's true. I am aggressive, and I can be, not as technical as every human being in the world, and that's totally fine. So some of it may be true, and it's fine. I mean, I'm okay with it. Call me what you like, as long as we get the job done, right? I'm not there to make friendships, and that's another flaw you find in me, that I don't go into work thinking I'm going to make best friends today at work. I'm thinking about what's the higher purpose that we're here to serve, and how can we be useful. I just think that there's very limited time left on the planet.
But how then do you make friendships?
So I tend to gravitate towards Indian women for friendships.
Okay.
And since there aren't too many of them at work, I just find them outside the workplace. And so I'm part of many networks, right? I don't think, when I landed in the country, I think we were 3 Indian women in the graduate program at Stanford University.
What does friendship mean
now,
to you? We'll go a little bit different directions on investment.
Well, yeah, friendship means being there no matter what happens to you in your life, right? And being supportive of your positives, and being very brutal with your negatives enough to be able to speak up to you about it, that you're able to absorb that information, accept it, and bring change. And so that safety net is not something I seek out at work. It's more, that friendship circle is outside work. I do a lot of volunteering. I teach yoga and meditation, where there are a lot of Indian women. In my community, I lead 400 or 500 Indian families in my neighborhood in Palo Alto. So a lot of Indian women, we eat breakfast together, we hang out, we drink tea. So I seek friendships outside. And I'm not I don't care about where the person works or what they do when I'm friends with them. That's another important thing for me. But in the workplace, we all care about who we're talking to and what their titles are, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And how would you describe yourself in 3 words? Just 3 keywords.
In 3 words?
Yes. And then tell why you chose these words.
I think I'm very driven and very compassionate. I'm a people person. Right?
Let's talk more about people's person.
Yeah.
What does it mean to you to be people's person?
So I connect very well with most people, whether at work or outside. People think of me as their friend at work. And I am friendly, but it's a little, I keep my distance. And I wish we were, this is like really vulnerable, right? I wasn't planning to speak about this. Yeah, in the workplace, it's good to keep your distance a bit. So that you can maintain a level of professionalism and focus on the outcome and metrics. But that doesn't mean we forget the human side and the compassion. And you can be compassionate without, becoming best friends, which is being very empathetic about where that person's coming from, knowing what their background is, truly understanding how do they work, what are their likes and dislikes, caring about that person. But then friendship goes beyond that. When you're a friend, you're coming home, you're meeting my husband and the kids, and you'll hear about my parents, and
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said that your preference is always to be on top.
Yes.
Not to have somebody.
Well, I do play a good
leading
number
you.
two. I can be a good number two, but I'm very selective about who I pick to be my leader if I do that.
Okay.
I don't do well where you have like 3 levels of management, and I'm a level 8, and then a level 9. And
What is your leadership style?
So I'm not a micromanager, right? I build a lot of trust and let people go. So that works really well for people who can drive themselves. So if you put me in with the people who are very junior, it can be a struggle because they need to be taught the trade. I'm not very good at that. I'm much stronger as an individual contributor who's just setting direction and who is giving a very long leash that people come to me if they need direction, which is how the nonprofit is doing very well, right? We have 10,000 people. It's like we have like a dozen people helping operate it. And the venture capital firm too, we have venture partners who are doing it as a side gig. So it's not a lot of authority and micromanagement that I go by. And I can do most things. So I'm very efficient, and that sets the good, I walk in the shoes of the person who needs to do it. And, I lead by example rather than go and tell people how to do it.
Great. So, from what I understood, you prefer to keep friendship out of professional work environment. Was there a situation that maybe you gave more chances to be more likely friend with colleagues or like managers, etc., that it affected and it led you to put strong boundaries between your team and colleagues, not to become friends? Was there anything happen in your career that led you to choose that way?
No, it's not like it happened that way. It was more that my mom told me that. She used to tell me when we were young, saying, make sure in the workplace you're able to keep your distance and no one's your best friend, and don't go and talk about all your secrets. But I have made a mistake, right? I've made mistakes. Like co-founders, it's really hard for me to set boundaries that way. Like the last co-founder I had, he's truly my friend. I'm still friends with him. But our company's exit, so it hurt to part ways. Usually it doesn't hurt to part ways when it's just colleagues. And it's much easier if you're just like in the mode of getting work done. And I keep my distance.
I see. That's great. Okay, now let's talk about your childhood.
This is like therapy in public.
So I love to see here ambitious, energetic woman leader in front of me. But I would love to take you back to your childhood. So how old are you here?
I was probably 2 years old.
Okay.
I don't remember that picture being taken.
So, okay. And I also have another picture of you. So this is your family. How old are you here?
I was in, it was just before I started pre-K.
Pre-K, okay. Do you remember this day?
I don't. That's in Kashmir. Before it became a war zone that it is today. And we'd gone on vacation with the family.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you have any childhood memories that you think that it led you to be where you are now?
Yeah, well, I'm the youngest of 3 sisters. And I used to struggle at home for being heard and being seen. Just like siblings, kind of like, we're very close. My sisters live within a 3-mile radius of where I am now. It's a very good relationship now. But as a child, it used to be a struggle to be heard and seen. On the other hand, in school, I was the oldest almost always. And so I was always the leader at school. And I used to be picked because my vocabulary was good, my math was good, I could sing and dance in public. And I think a lot of that molded me, that I still do improv theater.
Great.
And I think being on top is safe. That if I can lead, I usually am in my best self, that I can, I'm comfortable leading.
So it looks like your childhood experience led you to be where you are now, to be on top as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Our family believed a lot in education and empowerment of women, especially my father. He had 3 sisters, and in his world, his sisters, my mother, and the 3 of us daughters were most perfect. He would not be able to see any imperfection into it. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? All the way till he passed away when he was 79 years old.
Sorry about your loss.
Yeah, well, you have to die someday, right?
Yeah.
But he always saw perfection in us, and he was always kind, and he always said my mother would do better than him any day if only she was given the chance to work. And he would empower us, saying all of you should get PhDs. And, marriage should be optional. You should never have to be under the thumb of a man. And of course, all of us are married very happily for more than 20 years, each of us. And we have children and all of that. But it really shaped us. And my mother as well, where she always said, if only I could work, I would have been a doctor. And she was really good in the sciences. And she wasn't allowed to, right? It was just frowned upon for women to step out of the house and work. And so in the home, it was very nurturing that my parents always said, you would do phenomenally well. You're all gifted, and you're brilliant, and you're beautiful, and you're bold and capable, and you're like dragons, and,
This is so vital when you, as a kid, get a support by your parents.
Yeah.
I also grew up in a patriarchy society where I am from small town of Azerbaijan.
Mm-hmm.
It's border on Iran, and lots of cultural influences to the city where I was born and grew up. So girls leadership or girls leaders, women leaders were not accepted at all. And but my parents were both well educated. Like your parents, they always encouraged us to be well educated, to go study abroad. And I remember the days when my father found an international program for me in America. He asked me to apply, to try, etc. But his brothers and many other relatives were telling that, why you are sending your daughter to America? So no one will marry her if she goes to America. And my father he also passed away, sadly.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. So he used to tell that if somebody decides not to marry my daughter because she studied abroad, let him not marry to my daughter. So, and like your parents, they always encouraged us to prioritize be well educated rather than getting married early. That is the reason I got married when I was 30 years old. I always postponed it. I had clear career goals. I want to be well educated. I want to study in America. I want to build my career. So, and the parents' support and encouragement is so vital for us to be where we are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the southern part of India where I come from, it's a matriarchy, interestingly. Even though women don't work, women control the house. So my father, it's usually the men will bring the money that they earn outside the house and give it to the wife or the mother. And she gets to decide how to run.
That's interesting.
Yes. So my mom was always very important and she was in charge and she still is.
She had the money.
she was a boss. She still is the boss. She lives down the road from me in Palo Alto.
Oh, she's in America.
Yes. We moved her. We moved my parents the minute they were waiting for me to get married. The third daughter has to get married. The minute I got married, we moved into the United States because quality of life is better. And we all live within a 3-mile radius so we can take care of each other.
So I will go a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
So is your husband Indian or American? Did you married here or in India?
Yeah, he is of Indian origin and we met here. We were both training for a marathon program where we were raising money for children in India. And he was just cute. He used to run without a shirt and ran really fast and, we fell in love. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. That's great.
Yeah, we met here. And he's from the same background, interestingly. I dated a lot of guys, but this was the perfect fit.
I wanted to invite you all to Femigrant Foundation's annual forum that is hosted by Microsoft. The forum will be on February 28th from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. And we have incredible line of speakers who are startup founders raising billions of dollars, executive level immigrant speakers joining from Fortune 500 companies. At this event, we offer elegantly designed Italian food. There will be different stages for taking red carpet photo session, and it's an amazing opportunity to meet with successful immigrant leaders all in one place. So we are targeting to bring 300 immigrants in one room with Femigrant's annual forum called Immigrant Visionaries in Tech, AI, and Startups. I would highly recommend sign up now because ticket sells fast, so don't miss your opportunity to connect with immigrant leaders. Back to the studio.
Yes.
Thank you, Mala. So I know we paused when you shared your personal story about meeting your love of your life.
Yes.
Now you are mom of two teenagers, two boys. During these ages, I know it's a lot of work for parents. How does it go to be a mom of teenagers plus be a VC and be busy woman leader? So how does your personal life affect your professional life? How do you manage it?
Well, I'm lucky that I have a great partnership with my husband. He's very supportive of everything that I do. He calls me endless possibilities. It's like, do whatever you like, and it's endless, right? You can change as much as you like. The boys are 16 and 13 years old. So I have a high schooler and a middle schooler. And it's really full, right? Like Friday night, our house is just covered with teenagers, like on every surface possible. So we don't have much of a life, I think, outside parenting and work. So I usually decline, like, Friday night parties. Some of our friendships have withered away, which is really unfortunate. But we have each other, my husband and I, and I think we can revive a lot of those once the kids are grown. Yeah, that's kind of how we do it.
What examples did you aim to set for your kids when they were younger?
So, my husband sets a very good example for them because they're boys, that it's a very supportive partnership in every way. Like, I used to travel much more than him almost my entire career because I was in product marketing, product management. Then I try to run companies and exit them. So I've done a lot of sales in my jobs. Like, a couple of years ago, I spent 12 weeks traveling with my co-founder, who happened to be male. And my husband's really supportive that he can do just about anything I can in the house. He can cook, he will do, put away laundry, dishes, and not complain. And most of the time do it better than I can because I think men are stronger than women. They ought to do more work anyway. And, but he's very supportive in that sense. And so the boys pick that up. And in some ways, my husband makes better food than I do. Like when he cooks, it tastes better because he was raised by his grandma. So they're very authentic recipes. And in the beginning, when we were very young and newly married, I've been married for almost 21 years now. And I used to think, oh my gosh, he doesn't like my cooking. And, isn't it the woman's job to be cooking in the house and own the kitchen? I have to share everything with him. But now I see my son's cooking. And I'm like, what a break. Right? So when we travel, we try and do 2 countries a year to expose the boys to cultures outside the United States so that they're not very siloed. So we did Japan and we did Spain. We just came back from Italy, actually.
Great.
A couple of weeks back. And they carry my bags for me and check on me and make sure I'm warm, and they get me water. Of course, they fight, and there's a lot of drama between the boys.
There's no other way without fighting.
But they really do the things my husband used to do, and I used to get annoyed, saying, as if I can't carry my own bag, don't do it. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, I really like it. I like the support now that I'm older, that they,
you are getting your comfort zone.
So I feel like I'm like a princess or something. It's awesome.
That's great.
I used to want a baby girl, and here I am. I'm so grateful for the boys that they take care of me.
That's great. That's amazing. So please tell us, Mala, about your journey being an immigrant woman in VC world. How is your experience? And you have been doing it for how many years?
Well, it's been fairly new. It's 2 years coming up.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is there anything you learn now that you wish you knew 2 years ago when you just started?
Well, I didn't realize what a hard journey it actually is.
How hard it is? Please tell us.
Well, it's really hard because you're really, you're raising money and you're investing in people, and you're going to have to show returns, right? Now, you're investing in people. It's not real estate, right? So people are very dynamic and they change all the time. And so you have to, it's a bet, right? You're betting on human lives and human minds and products that will change in a market, and you can't be hands-on building stuff yourself. So I'm an operator through and through. I'm an engineer underneath the covers. So it's quite difficult to think that you're going to delegate this to such an extent that you're trusting someone else to show the returns, and you're making bets. So that's the nature of the game.
Has there been any situation? I know you are very new, 2 years, but in these 2 years, has there been any situation where that situation became like a lesson for you to learn with the decisions you made or your team made?
Yeah, well, I'm realizing that people who gravitate towards our fund are people who look like me. And so we have a lot of female investors. Also, I'd say a lot of immigrants, people of color. It's very diverse. Some people are Caucasian. But the point being that I didn't realize that I would attract this community. You don't know what you're going to attract, right? There's we have people from Azerbaijan and it could really, Indonesia, all sorts of places that I would not have imagined that people would join us to invest. So I think I'm being an instrument of change in that sense, that, it's becoming possible for people to invest in venture because of me, that they would not have thought about it otherwise. So as part of my venture firm, I run a venture fellowship because a lot of our investors are first-time investors. And in the venture fellowship, I teach them as much as I possibly can on venture capital so that it breaks down that barrier and they can realize this is another job and what is it like to be in a fund operating it. As a result of which, my hope is that maybe one of them will become venture capitalists, or in the least, when they go and pitch to an investor, it's demystified, that they realize what this venture capitalist is really looking for and how is the person compensated, right? What are their motivations? So the venture fellowship is very, very successful in our venture firm. We're running our second cohort at this time, and I think a lot of people join us because of the fellowship, which is great. Usually fellowships are not run for the investors. They usually, I think interns maybe do it in venture firms. But I said, I'm going to define what I would like for myself that is going to make people successful around me, right? I feel like my journey at this point is to enable everybody around me. I just have couple of decades left, probably. I'm in my 40s already. And so I want to empower not just the founders, but also the investors and everybody, the other venture capitalists who co-invest with me. Everybody needs to win in this game with me. Mm-hmm. And so when I approach it from that angle, then I'm rolling out a lot of training programs and, teaching people everything I know and making my calendar more available. And also for the founders, I'm trying to land them customers or introduce them to the right venture capitalists, for them to get larger checks. So it's a game of a lot of mutual respect and giving. And I didn't realize it was so much of that. So it's a very people person, the job. You can't be like I like to fix codes in a corner and I'm going to be happy. That's not going to make a venture capitalist, I think. Yeah.
What are the three main things you teach?
So the venture fellowship, there are three parts to it, interestingly. There are three terms. The first term is everything about venture, right? The state of the industry is very interesting. If you look at the venture capital industry, it's a very young industry. Most of the venture firms were created after World War II, and it's about 40 years old. And so many of them are multi-billion-dollar companies at this point, right? And so that's the history of those companies and how does a fund get created? How do you analyze a safe note? Those are sorts of things we learn in the first term. So it's like VC 101, I'd say. And then the second term is about a marketscape, to understand market analysis, and then the anatomy of a pitch deck. Because you get very few minutes. I get like hundreds of decks every week that I'm looking at, and we evaluate maybe 100 companies a quarter. So how do you quickly decide that a seed stage investment is going to become a unicorn? So that's what I teach in the second term. So that when they want to evaluate a company or they want to evaluate themselves, when they want to start a company or they want to think about what do I want to be known for? What's the platform I want to be known for in high tech, right? Mm. Then it comes from a space of what's the gap analysis and what's the most meaningful in terms of being able to build something that will make $1 billion in revenues in the next 7 to 10 years. So that's the term 2. Then term 3 is actually about how do you actually do the deal analysis, like the math behind it. What are the different parts that you can negotiate in a deal? So it's a bit like, I'd say, a venture scout who's it's not just networking. It's very deep, right, in terms of analyzing things so that you can actually show the returns that the investors deserve. Like every fund should return 18 to 21x, I'd say. And so you can't just sit on your laurels and say, I'm a venture capitalist, I'm going to, just to get a check out of this. It's really working that. And so that's the third term, which is how do you do deal analysis when you're looking at the math behind the deal? Who are the other investors? Who's the lead investor? What are the terms they've negotiated? What can I negotiate? What are those implications on the fund in the longer term? And so that's it. Those are the three parts to it.
Awesome. You explained it great. What is the process of joining the fellowship program? How long does the program continue? So if I decide to join myself, is there an application form? How can I join? So
the venture fellowship is open only to the limited partners who are investors in the firm. And we can certainly talk about it. We'd love to have you. You have to be able to, I basically want skin in the game, right? If you're investing a check and then I'm talking to you about a deal, you have your own money going to that deal. So you react very differently. You're listening very differently. The networking is phenomenal because these are brilliant people, right? Mm-hmm. They're technologists in the Valley who've shipped and scaled product. There are CMOs, chief technology officers, CPOs, exited founders, heads of business units. So I value them and highly regard them like I highly regard you.
Thank you.
Right? The experience that we bring is very unique in the Valley. And so I make sure that the time is well spent. And so it's primarily only the investors. So we would offline on it if you're interested.
Yes, I would love to learn about it.
Yeah, that you would invest in the fund, as a result of which you're part of the fellowship. We're meeting twice a month for an hour online. And then we do quarterly lunches and dinners, of course, because people love to hang out. It's just phenomenal. There are friendships being created, and I do everything under the governance of the laws that a venture firm needs to be in compliance with.
Okay, so now I know you are doing lots of events to meet founders and investors, etc. When you meet these founders with the main goal to find the right companies or right founders to invest in, what are the main 3 particular things you pay attention when you meet the founders the first time at these events?
The big why I look for. Why is this person doing it? Because if you think about the founder's journey, it's a 10-year journey. And a lot of people want to start companies. And the idea matters, but the idea doesn't matter as much as the founder and the founding team. So the first thing I'm looking for is, are they going to stick it out for 10 years to do this? Or is it just, I'm in Silicon Valley, I want to start a company, right? That's the first thing I look for. The second thing is, what is so unique and different about this idea that's really setting it apart? I call it the moat, right? In a moat, in a palace, they'll have deep water with crocodiles that's really hard to penetrate it. I'm usually looking for that. In this day and age, it's primarily data access, I think, a lot more than anything else. It could be deep IP, which is few and far between, unless it's coming out of Stanford or Berkeley, I've seen. And I'm always happy to be surprised. If it's not deep IP, then I'm looking for data access that's very unique. That's maybe you need regulatory compliance in order to get access to it, relationships that you have built that's giving you access to it. And then the third thing is the market. Right? What's the market where this person is operating? And can I support this person? What's my contribution? It can't be a market that I don't understand or a technology I don't understand, right? And I understand a lot of technologies. I've been around for a long time now. But I don't invest, for example, very specific domains that are like medtech perhaps would not be a perfect fit for me. But a lot of the cloud infrastructure or, B2B AI companies, SaaS companies, those are things that I know the ins and outs. Like you wake me up in the middle of the night, I'll teach you go-to-market strategy for your B2B SaaS. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for as a third angle. Like, what's the market? So the founder fit to be a founder, right? The human fit, much more than anything else with the founding team. And then the data moat or any moat that they have, where is it going to be hard to penetrate that and recreate it, right? So that they have some advantage for a while. And then the third would be what I just said, which is
if the team is not big, do you write angel checks?
I don't. I do only seed stage investments.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have been in this industry for a while. What would be your recommendations for anybody pitching to angel investors to prioritize or focus to be successful and convince the investors they are the right fit?
So, I don't think, so angel investment should not be the first criteria if you're going to start a company. I encourage moonlighting. If you're really passionate about things, would you spend your nights and weekends on it? And go and get early product market fit and validation at your own expense. And if you're able to get $200,000 ARR, at least, get to, $5,000 a month or some metric so that you're able to see other people who'd buy this product. Then I'd say go to your angels. Because when you go and get angel money, you're basically getting money from people in your trusted circle. And there's credibility at stake, right? It's not just cash for the sake of it. At least a venture capitalist, it's well known that we're doing this for the trade, right? But when you're getting angel money, it's basically your friends and your family who are giving you checks. And so it's credibility at stake. And at every point, it's credibility at stake, whether it's just working a job or whether you're a founder, whether you're raising money. And so I'd say keep it clean. Make sure you're able to generate revenues before you go and try and get venture money or angel money or any money at all.
You mentioned about AI. You invest in AI startups, and AI is like growing and changing every day. and so many AI companies. Everybody tries to do something, just adds AI. It's a trend now.
Yeah.
So how do you distinguish AI ideas, because it's so new,
Yep.
that this idea, there is most likely a chance this AI company will work versus to the other AI companies that both of them pitches at the same time?
Yeah, no, I was teaching artificial intelligence at Stanford University in 1999.
Wow.
As a graduate student, because nobody wanted to work that job when I landed in the country. Right? Nobody wanted to work in AI. Like, who do AI, right? And I've shipped and scaled more than 6 AI products myself. And even then, it's changing so much that I'm actually enrolled in Berkeley studying machine learning and data science.
Amazing.
And the 3 of us who operate the fund, we're all Berkeley grads who have masters in data science and machine learning. So other than my Stanford degree, this is my side gig, right? I moonlight as a student always. I'm always learning.
So you graduated Stanford and Berkeley?
I haven't graduated from Berkeley yet. I'm still enrolled. I take one course a term and learn as much as I can.
That's exciting.
Yeah, and we have a number of fellows in our program, a couple of Berkeley profs who are part of my fellowship. They want to learn about venture, right?
Great.
So it's awesome. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, it's a phenomenal community, the fellowship. But what that means for me is that it's very easy for me to have a trusted circle that really knows AI. You can never be the expert at any one thing, right? But you need a community of people who can support you. And so that's what I do. And through Founders Creative, my nonprofit, I have a climate council, I have a healthcare council, we have edtech, we're creating fintech, we have privacy and cybersecurity. And so through those councils, I'm always evaluating founders, but also I have a really solid network of experts in each of those. And it has nothing to do with a venture firm. Anyone can just join us as part of the nonprofit organization. But it's very mission driven, right? That we are focusing on these verticals so that we can go very deeply and understand it and think about the implications of AI. So if you came and pitched to me, I would know what the regulatory laws are that are in privacy, for example. I used to be the head of privacy for WhatsApp at Meta. So I played a lot of bigger company roles to learn those. And so it's easy for me to dip into my network, but also for me to do that evaluation to call out if it's not going to work.
Do you get, with all this great, amazing background in AI, do you get requests from other VCs to help evaluate any AI pitch? Or
No. I don't think they know I exist, or that's
now they will know. Now you will get lots of requests. Are you ready for it?
That's why I came out immediately when you called me saying, come and do this podcast. I was like, I go very deep in work, and that's the engineer in me, and I forget to go and put myself out there. So last year I decided I would post on LinkedIn, and that's how I've started. So I'm slower than you, and I'm like, well, I didn't even know you could rent a studio and do a podcast. So kudos to you. I think you're rocking it in marketing.
You.
Yeah,
I am slower than you, because I am just learning about investment at the age of 45.
Well, we all, we're similar in age, but we all have different strengths and weaknesses. Yes. And I think all of those are important, which is why community matters, right? And you don't have to do it all, and that's the point of it. So as long as you're able to establish very trusting relationships with each other in a community setting where everyone is growing and thriving, then, we all benefit from it. And as a result of that, the founders benefit, and the investors will also benefit, that we'll see the returns that we deserve in the market.
Anybody wants to transition from angel investor to VC, what is your recommendation to them?
Absolutely, you should, right? Well, the challenge with angel investing is the risk is really high. You're just writing a personal check and giving it to somebody, and then you'll never see them. The founder, there's no reason the founder is accountable to you and will get back to you in any way, right? A venture firm, on the other hand, is sitting on their cap table in their preferred stock. You're not just inside some special purpose vehicle on their cap table. And so they're accountable to you. You're able to get quarterly reports out of them. And the larger the check sizes, you could land a board seat. 15% of publicly traded companies don't have a woman on the board. They're not in compliance with the law. The reason they're not in compliance is because they're able to get away with it, saying not enough qualified women. And so it's very important that women step up and become venture capitalists and invest in venture firms, because then there's your chance to get into a board seat, win an advisory role, right? That's kind of how it may start. But as a result of that, you can build your portfolio of companies that you've been a board advisor on and then a board member on. And then you can make it to the public markets, and maybe one of your portfolio companies will become publicly traded. But that's very important because the board determines the success of the CEO and what the culture of the organization is, how data rights are leveraged within the organization, the governance, all of that, right? And so it's very important that we step up, and that's the highest level of leadership if you think about it.
Interesting thing I want to know, how much influence do you have when you are on a board and also a VC to impact the company culture?
Well, the seed stage companies I write, they don't typically have boards. It's too early. But typically, the board is what controls the culture and everything, right? You have there'll be different committees that get created. Culture could be one of them, ethics and culture, right? Yeah. And the board gets to play, the members get to play different roles in those committees and come up with what would be the president for that organization. And so it's a very important function. And that's what you can, fire the CEO, or, you can see that the next person who gets hired in that role has to be a immigrant, right?
That's great. I love it.
That's what we need. We need to be, I told you I have a problem that I need to be in the highest seat. So I can't be president because I wasn't born in the country, right? But I tell my boys there's always a chance, right?
You can be VP. Right.
I'm too techie. I'm too focused on the Bay Area and Silicon Valley and AI and machine learning. I'm like,
we need you here. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like reading the DeepSeek white paper, so I don't think I would be a fit.
When you mentor founders to help them succeed, no matter if you invested in them or not, you just mentor. What are the main advices you give those founders to succeed? What skills do they need to gain? What personality do they need to have to win?
Sure. Yeah, I think the first requirement is that you fall in love with the problem. Okay? It's not about getting the founder title and the C-level title, because it's a job that's really hard. You're not going to get paid to do this for the rest of your life, right? Possibly, right? For the next 10 years, you're just going to be getting money out of customers and investors in order to pull this off. So you need to be madly in love with this problem. Like I'm madly in love with this mission of, seeing more women go IPO on Wall Street. Like if I could get one woman to go IPO every year on Wall Street for the rest of my life, I think I would have lived a good life. Right? You need to fall in love with that problem that keeps you up at night, and that you'll do anything it takes. You don't have to know everything about it. You can learn everything you can about it, but you will do that learning only if you've fallen madly in love with that problem. And if you've fallen madly in love with the problem, everything else will fall in place, right? Because to solve that problem, then you'll get the right people to help you. And those people will be your co-founders, your employees, your investors. The minute it's not a fit to solve the problem, you'd say, well, it's not a great fit, let's part ways. It won't be that you're just doing it for the title or the seat.
Yeah.
That's the biggest advice I can give anybody.
Less than 2% of women, they get investments. You just brought this up. And what we need to do to help women, especially immigrant women founders, because we come with lack of resources, so many things we need to learn, to explore. What advice would you give them to increase their chances to get investments? How we can increase the number from 2% to 20%?
Yeah, I think, in the first place, more women need to step up to start companies. I don't think there are sufficient people stepping up. And fall in love with problems that are going to go. So this is not the mom and pop shops, right? This is not services. And that's the other challenge, I think, that we land up picking problems that are not venture scale. So, there are things that you can control, and then there are things you can't control, right? Sandal is not something we can control. And there may be bias, who knows, right? I'm not going to deny it, but I'm not going to accept it and let it rule my life. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything that I can in order to succeed. And that's what I would like for my founders to do, to think, what can they do in order to succeed? And for that, they need to pick venture scale problems. So if you pick a problem that's going to make $1 million today, then what does it take to become 2 and then 4 and then, right, exponentially get to 100 in 7 years or 10 years, 7 years max, in order for you to be venture scale. And that's what people miss out when they say, I want to become a founder. So I'd say first is we need more women wanting to become founders. and founders of venture scale businesses, and then fall in love with that problem, that you're madly in love with it. And it might be something like, I don't know, digital transformation, like IT infrastructure transformation. And if you're going to be bored by that, that's not your baby, right? You have to be madly in love with saying, how can I automate the financial analysts on Wall Street, that they don't have to work anymore, that my product's going to replace it. That was one of my companies, right? And that's basically what you have to do.
Awesome, great. We are almost finalizing our show. As a format of this podcast, you can ask me one question, but I already answered the questions that I can tell you avoid. The goal of the Immigrant Foundation, the goal of the Verso Talk, because it will be repetitive for people to watch. Besides that, one of the questions was like where I see myself with Verso Talk after 5 years. Anything besides this, you can ask me still, but just on the...
Can you tell me one thing that happened in your childhood that's making you sit here on a Sunday afternoon recording podcasts of immigrants?
Very great question. You took me really exactly to my childhood.
Uh-huh.
When I was ages around 10, 12, together with my mom, we were watching VOA News of America, and there was Azerbaijani journalist. Her name is Dilshad Aliyarlı. My mom called me, and I said, Aytakin, come here. She's Azerbaijani woman. She speaks English fluently, and she runs news media channel. Look how brilliant she is. Every night, or maybe once a week, when the show was live, she was calling me and asking me to watch her and get inspired by her. She adored her, and there was a time she told me, Aytakin, email her and ask her questions, how she was able to make it to VOA News, because she's from Azerbaijan and her English is brilliant. At that time, I never imagined that one day I will have a podcast, right? But I was impressed because my mom adored her. She planted seeds at that time that when I look back to those years, now I recall, wow, my mom helped me to see something later, maybe after the ages of 45, that I didn't realize at that time.
Beautiful story. So, amazing. Yeah. Look at you. I think you're better than that newscaster.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Amazing story. Yeah.
Great question. Thank you. You took me back to my childhood memories. Sadly, both of my parents passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. I wish my mom could see and watch this video. So
I'm sure
I become sad when I talk about them, but this is great. So I think that I can feel proud of myself, even though it's very late because my mom couldn't see it, but I realized her dream.
I think you're setting an example for all immigrants. I feel so proud of you when I'm watching you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your work.
So now it's really authentic. I'm ready to cry. We can finalize it.
Beautiful. I told you, compassion is my strength.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming here on Sunday. Thank you so much. So today our guest was inspiring, empowering, and amazing leader, Mala. She's a VC investor. Thank you so much, Mala.
Thank you.